The movie is set in the 1990s. High schools across North America have experienced a significant increase in violence following a series of devastating mass shootings. In response to these tragic events, drastic measures are taken, including the abolition of the Constitution and the banning of private businesses. As a result, many areas in major cities fall under the control of youth gangs, leading to the closure of some schools. Amidst this chaotic landscape, two major gangs have emerged: Blackheart's Street Gang and Razorheads, each competing for dominance over the United States. Furthermore, special areas known as free fire zones are established, where police have no jurisdiction, and the CIA assumes responsibility for law enforcement. Since Seattle's Kennedy High School is situated among a free fire zone, the Department of Education Defense, DED, a division of the CIA, has implemented martial law. The school's newly appointed principal, Miles Langford, collaborates with Megatech CEO Dr. Bob Forrest for a project to control violence at school. The project is an experiment where 3 retired military robots, originally built during the Soviet-American War of 1991, are transformed into android educators. During a meeting, Dr. Forrest introduces 3 androids: the school coach, Mr. Briles, the history teacher, Mr. Hardin, and the chemistry teacher, Ms. Connors, to the Board of Education. These mechanical educators are programmed with the knowledge of respective subjects. Forrest believes combining military skills and program knowledge will transform the future of education in the country. Principal Langford seems to be impressed by the potential of these new teachers. He announces that imprisoned former delinquents will be released as part of the new experiment. The project aims to introduce innovative methods of discipline under the guidance of the android teaching staff. Following this, Cody Culp, a member of the Blackhearts gang, is released from prison. He is determined to avoid gang conflicts, particularly with rivals like the Razorheads led by Hector. Cody is picked up by his adopted younger brother, Sonny, and his biological brother, Angel. On the way, they come across some Razorheads, and due to old feuds, a fight soon ensues between them. Cody and his brothers are caught up in an intense car chase. Thankfully, he manages to navigate through the danger zone and evade their rivals. When they safely arrive at the school, Sonny, who is a drug addict, disobeys during a car inspection. As a result, he gets detained by the new school guards. Meanwhile, Kurt, a fellow Blackheart, learns that Cody wants to step away from the gang. Concerned for his safety, Kurt warns him about the potential consequences of his decision. However, Cody stays determined to stay out of trouble and concentrate on his studies. In chemistry class, Ms. Connors, one of the android teachers, initially maintains a calm demeanor and greets everyone. However, the students completely ignore her, as the majority of them are gang members. Hector and another Razorhead member then disrupt the class environment by bullying a kid. When the situation intensifies, Ms. Connors astonishes everyone by employing her martial arts expertise to teach Hector and his friend a good lesson. This impresses Dr. Forrest and the Megatech personnel who are watching from the basement, disguised as a DED control center. Later in Mr. Hardin's history class, chaos ensues when Kurt and a Razorhead member, Flavio, engage in a fight. Mr. Hardin, resorting to strict disciplinary measures, grabs the 2 boys by their collars and slaps them forcefully on their backs. Following the punishment, he manages to gain the attention of the rest of the students and begins teaching history. Upon returning home, Cody is disappointed to discover that his brothers and mother have fallen into addiction to a dangerous drug known as Edge. Frustrated and upset, he leaves the house, taking his motorcycle for a ride before eventually returning home later that night. The following day, Flavio makes unwanted advances toward Christy, the daughter of Mr. Langford, the school principal. When she screams for help, he hurts her even more. Cody spots the commotion and immediately rushes to the scene. He engages in a fight with the thugs and fearlessly keeps them at bay. Unfortunately, the school coach, Mr. Briles, witnesses the fight and incorrectly assumes that Cody initiated it. As a result, the poor boy is dragged to the principal's office. Mr. Langford then tells Cody that his actions technically violate his parole, But when our hero reveals that he was only trying to save the principal's daughter, he escapes severe consequences. Regardless, he's placed under surveillance as a precautionary measure. Following this, Cody and Mr. Briles proceed to physical education class. Mr. Briles publicly humiliates a fellow Blackheart member named Mohawk during push-up exercises. After class, he instructs Cody to stay behind, only to brutally beat him up. Mr. Briles then warns Cody to stay within his line because he's one of the most notorious students at school. Mohawk witnesses the entire thing from afar and hurries back to his locker. Desperate and under the influence of edge, he retrieves a firearm from his locker. As Briles continues his assault on Cody, Mohawk returns to the scene, brandishing his gun. Unfortunately, the android coach catches wind of this, and in a moment of self-defense, he tragically kills Mohawk by breaking his neck. When the technicians at Megatech learn about this violent encounter, they are left utterly shocked. Forrest, however, asserts that Briles acted in self-defense with the firearm. In the meantime, Cody's adopted brother, Sonny, arrives late to Mr. Hardin's class, and he's visibly high on edge. Concerned, Hardin guides him to his locker, where he discovers vials of the drug inside. This enrages him, so he mercilessly forces the vials into Sonny's mouth, resulting in his tragic death. The android history teacher then takes Sonny's bloodied cross, puts it in his pocket, and returns to class. Cody notices the cross during the lecture, but doesn't ask about it. Later, when Mr. Langford confronts the three teachers about Sonny's death, they collectively lie that the boy died due to a drug overdose. Following the grim incident, Cody is convinced that Hardin is involved in his brother's death. He then seeks Christie's help in uncovering the truth. Together, they skip school the following day to search for Sonny's cross in Hardin's apartment. Soon, their investigation leads them to discover that Hardin, Briles, and Connors share an apartment. Breaking in, Cody stumbles upon Sonny's bloodied cross, confirming his suspicions. But before they can investigate more, the trio of teachers arrive. The teenagers quickly make a run for it, but they are spotted by the androids, who start seeing them as a threat. Moments later, the young couple finds themselves being chased by their teachers. Cody hurriedly drops Christie in a safe place and runs for his life. He then enters a damaged bridge, but suddenly comes across a dead end. While the trio is racing after him, he pulls his brake and crashes the motorcycle into a vandalized car. Luckily, he only sustains minor injuries. In the meantime, the trio's car fails to stop at the right time due to overspeeding, causing them to plunge into the water below. Before going down, Coach Briles admits that he hates water, but despite the ordeal, all of them manage to make it out alive. For the next part of their plan, they decide to incite a conflict between the Razorheads and the Blackhearts. That evening, Cody and Angel enjoy a game of basketball. They have a lot of fun together, something which they haven't had in years. Once they're done playing, Angel, who is now officially a member of the Blackhearts, chooses to stay behind, while Cody leaves to complete his school assignments. Unfortunately, while Angel is heading home later that night, he suddenly encounters the android teachers. In a horrifying turn of events, the trio mercilessly chases him down. When they finally corner him, Briles throws him against a wall, ultimately resulting in his tragic death. Shortly after, Razorhead member Noser exits a local pizza place, only to come face to face with Connors. He is swiftly kidnapped and taken away by the android teacher. In the next scene, we see Noser engulfed in flames and thrown into the window of the Razorhead's hangout place. When Hector notices this, he is horrified, and he wrongly assumes that their rivals, Blackhearts, are responsible for this. The following morning, Cody arrives at the Blackhearts hangout to discover a devastating scene. Angel's lifeless body surrounded by fellow gang members. One of them discovers Angel's basketball with a chilling message scrawled in blood. The message implicitly calls for a potential war between the two gangs. The Blackhearts also believe that the Razorheads are behind their friend's tragic death. Consumed by grief and fury, Cody is determined to avenge his brother's death. Later that afternoon, the two gangs drive up to a war zone. Their conflict escalates into a full-blown war. But little do they know that their new teachers are playing tricks on them. Amidst the chaos, Briles, Hardin, and Connors arrive at the scene and ruthlessly eliminate members of both gangs. At one point, Cody devises a plan to trap Hector inside an abandoned building. However, his scheme doesn't go as planned when Hardin emerges from the shadows, tearing one of his friends apart with his bare hands. Cody is shocked to see the gruesome incident and soon realizes that Hardin and perhaps the two other teachers are not humans. Shocked and desperate, he attempts to shoot Hardin, only to discover that the bullets do not work on him. Thankfully, he somehow manages to escape from the scene. That night, Cody desperately tries to warn the Blackhearts about Hardin's involvement in Reedy's death. But his gang members don't understand why a teacher would be after a student, so they ignore his concerns. Meanwhile, Mr. Langford, upon learning of the escalating violence, moves to terminate the experimental project. However, Dr. Forrest not only refuses to halt the program, but rather directs his minions to eliminate the enemy. Moments after, Briles grabs Langford by the neck. With great force, he then inserts his poison-tipped fingers into the latter's throat. Sadly, this kills the poor principal on the spot. In the meantime, Hector receives a call allegedly from Cody, arranging a one-on-one duel at the school entrance. But it turns out to be the doing of Connors, who has already abducted Christy. She then speaks in Hector's voice and contacts Cody with the same proposal. However, Cody realizes Hector's unusual choice of location for the duel, so he's doubtful about the authenticity of the call. In the next scene, the Blackhearts and the Razorheads summon their army at the school. Cody then confronts Hector, attempting to convince him that the teachers are playing a trick on them to ignite a war between them. To validate his claims, he reveals Sonny's blood-stained cross that he found in the teacher's apartment. Hector then connects the dots and finally realizes that the new teachers are their common enemy. Later, the combined gang forces search for Christy and the teachers within the school premises. While doing so, they discover the terrifying reality of their teachers' identities. They are actually military robots determined to eliminate the students. Ms. Connor's arm transforms into a flamethrower, while Mr. Briles' arm morphs into a missile launcher. Sadly, many students are killed during this violent war. Amidst the chaos, Cody and his fellow gang member Kurt locate Christy, only to come face to face with Hardin. They quickly open fire, but the android teacher proves too resilient. Sadly, Hardin kills Kurt using his deadly drilling arm. Facing imminent danger, our hero then grabs a nearby machine gun and fires at Hardin until he finally destroys him. Following this, Cody and Christy find themselves pursued by Ms. Connors and seek refuge in the chemistry lab. With quick thinking, Cody notices a flammable gas leak and hatches a plan. He distracts Connors while instructing Christy to turn on all the gas valves. He then grabs an axe from the fire and safety unit and strikes at the exposed gas. Consequently, it causes a massive explosion, and Connors, engulfed in flames from her own weapon, instantly dies. The couple then escape the smoke-filled lab and come across Hector, the only surviving member of the Razorheads gang. After this, they devise a plan to kill the last android, Mr. Briles. Hector creates a distraction, allowing the other two to head for a nearby bus. Cody then hotwires the vehicle and speeds towards the school entrance. As Briles spots them, Hector provides cover while Cody drives the bus at full speed, ultimately running down the android. Just before the bus explodes, Cody and Christy leap to safety. Thinking the danger has passed, the surviving trio investigates a noise coming from the school basement. However, their relief is short-lived when a partially human, partially robotic Briles emerges from beneath the wreckage of the bus. In the basement, the teenagers encounter Dr. Forrest, who suddenly takes Christy hostage in a desperate attempt to salvage his project. Cody warns Forrest that it's too late, but the psychotic doctor remains convinced he can somehow persist with his plans. When Hector tries to save Christy, Forrest fatally shoots him. The insane doctor then moves to kill Cody as well. However, before he can do so, Briles appears from behind and pierces through Forrest's heart, killing him on the spot. The android, which had been damaged earlier in the bus incident, seems to have no recollection of his boss, so his impaired system sees every human as an enemy. After killing Forrest, the android begins to attack Christy. Thankfully, Cody manages to get on a forklift and impale him. Meanwhile, Christy joins him, wraps a chain around the android's neck, and uses the forklift to sever the robotic teacher's head. This finally puts an end to the madness. The ending of the movie shows Cody and Christy as the sole survivors of the battered school as they walk away from the chaos safely.